As defined in the article, a student requires a few areas of concern with themselves, the instructors, and a school or business. To define each individual, instructors need to examine a few key controversial issues. The first area to examine includes defining the program by the school and the instructor. Just as in the University of Phoenix, if a distant student does not understand the process, nor the ability to communicate issues, he or she fails the class. The next controversy deals with participation of the student. Individuals must be disciplined enough to know they have to complete his or her assignments and become involved in the class. Outside individuals examine asynchronous learning and fail to understand that participation is the key. Communication misunderstandings also plays a large part in the controversy about distance learning. Discussing items in threads, writing papers, and failing to understand the instructions creates common communication issues. A student could complete the paper wrong, convey the wrong tone in their thread, and this becomes a problem facing students. The other area includes team participation and accountability. A clear defined role for a student provides them with a successful environment. The article's examination of self-efficiency denotes the keys to making this team successful in his or her role online. The defining methods to address the situations as defined in the article deal with 4 key areas to help the student become successful. The first is the experience of mastery. Simply put, the assignments and direction of the course need to be easy to follow. Just like individuals teach a baby to walk, the instructor must provide a clear path to understanding. Next, create a vicarious experience. In layman's terms, engage the student and promote his or her involvement in the course. This allows the student to feel that he or she becomes a part of a larger society and the person no longer feels alone. Social persuasion deals with integrating the student into a group environment. This begins with the expectation that he or she participates in threads and team assignments. This creates a social bond between the student and the class, much like an in-person class environment. Finally, create instructional rapport. University of Phoenix completes this task with a counselor who calls you before the class and says, "Hey, are you ready for this class coming up?" While many, including myself, do not feel this is a strong method, as an instructor, he or she can benefit highly with a personal connection by picking up the phone or sending an individualized email or message to that student. This welcomes the student into the class and makes them feel like part of the whole. In this slide, we're talking about the methods to address any controversy. We discussed it a little bit in the last 2 slides, but how do you address it, who addresses it, and what do you address? Just like a drill instructor, the instructor of any distance learning facility must determine any issues and deal with each quickly. This includes both positive and negative concerns. An instructor must address conflict quickly or the situation becomes clearly out of hand. With the online environment, you must assess each situation to determine the problem because he or she, as an instructor, cannot see the conflict in the person because they're not in front of you. As stated in the prior slide, the instructor sets those expectations and then follows up with that student to make sure that he or she adheres and understands that expectation. An instructor must identify any and all controversy and, if the situation requires, address that controversy quickly. Last, the instructor must pay attention to individual conflict. The internet does not provide a safe zone for the students, and conflicts may begin, so the instructor must enforce that safe zone and assure the students this is in fact a safe area to discuss subjects without repercussions or attacks. Next, we discuss the factors that can affect self-efficiency. Factors that can hinder self-efficiency include failing to understand how to use the technology. Many cases we've got individuals that just don't know how to use computers. The basic understanding is there, but the detail is not. Students cannot know what an instructor expects if he or she doesn't understand the basic use of the product. And that includes that product being the class. Next, with many newer students or technically challenged, they fail to understand. That failure to understand leads to the lack of confidence, and that goes back to that initial slide. Next, a student must understand the objectives of the class and the school, or once again, he or she fails to know or understand the expectations. A person must identify self issues. Understanding self allows the student to understand if and when the problems exist and offer the advantage to that student as opposed to just ignoring problems. A student's got to have that self analysis situation to know their situation and know what they need to do. Everything kind of goes back to understanding his or her belief. Does the student understand and believe that he or she can master that course? And finally, slide 5 deals with how to minimize the effect of self-efficiency, or lack of self-efficiency, I should say. So in order to correct the prior issues, the instructor must follow a few guidelines. Each area requires the instructor to promote positive feelings and understanding. And it's kind of strange saying that in an online environment because you don't see people face to face, so you've got to connect via emails, via threads, what have you. If that environment stays positive and focused, the online classroom will continue to do well. People will become involved. The more positive everything is, the more people become involved. Another area to promote is group contact and collaboration with the entire class, not just in the teams. This opens up doors and connects students with one another on a deeper level. So even though you're not in a room together, you're together. And I think that as you move through the education system, you'll find the classrooms that are online that you feel like a group. The result of those prior two offer an instructor the ability to create and promote the community, which is the important thing, and that is the online community environment. It's a strong environment when put together right, so we've got to follow that and push and promote that community. The classroom begins to connect and work as one unit, even with the distance. I mean, it can be a global distance and they'll work together. So the end result of this allows an instructor to promote that positive learning environment, and that results in a harmonious classroom and people who want to learn the subject matter.